One of the things that I think is really important about developing a strategic plan is the philosophy of an organization, its vision, its mission, its values. An excellent strategic plan operationalizes that philosophy. It makes that philosophy actionable. All organizations have limited resources of time, of talent, of finances. So a strategic plan helps that organization determine those priorities, determine what resources they're going to invest in those priorities, and then it becomes, if you will, like a decision-making tool. It helps people make decisions about what they're going to do, how they're going to take the organization in a particular direction. There is no right vision. There are lots of ways that an organization might see its future. But there are characteristics of vision statements and great visions that I think are really important. I think a vision has to be aspirational. So it needs to be bold, it needs to be exciting, it needs to be something that people can really feel enthused about and motivated. So it needs to be aspirational. And then a practical consideration, any vision statement should be aligned. It should be aligned with the mission, the values, the goals. It is the ultimate destination, so it needs to be aligned with the rest of the strategic plan. There's another way of thinking about vision in organizations that comes from the leadership literature. And usually we talk about individual leaders as being transformational, but I think organizations, as they pursue their visions, can also be transformational. Great organizations are transformational in the sense that they help their stakeholders and people who are part of the organizations see things differently. They transform values. Transformational organizations, which I'm going to now use synonymously with visionary organizations, make a difference in the people that they serve.
So mission statements answer the question, why do we exist? This is the purpose, this is the meaning for your organization. It's really all about speaking to the people that are going to work for your company. It's not so much about the products or services that you actually offer, but more why. Why do we offer these products and services? There's 3 questions that you'll probably want to answer when looking at your mission statement. First, is it short? We recommend 10 words or less. Could you put it on a t-shirt? Could you put it on a billboard? Does it fit on a bumper sticker even? Second is it easily recitable? So could you stop any team member, any manager, anybody on your board even, in the hallway and have them easily recite it back to you? And then last, it's really all about making sure you have some kind of rally cry for your organization. So does it invoke passion? Does it invoke commitment from all the team members that are going to be at your organization? This is your chance to get everybody on the same page and make sure that you have everybody excited and relevant when it comes to providing those products and services.
So the goals are really sort of this broad-based concepts or areas that you want to achieve in your organization. So goal statements tend to be more broad-based. They're not as specific. The goal actually kind of feeds into the objectives. And objectives are where now you are really looking at very specific details. So I'm sure a lot of people hear of what are referred to as SMART objectives. So the S being very specific, M being measurable, achievable, relevant, and time sensitive. So to have all those elements in your objectives. So you need it to be specific enough that it will roll up into your goal. You need it to be achievable. So be realistic, because I think a lot of people have really good ideas and they really want big things to happen, but can they really achieve it? Is there really the resources and other elements that will help you? So think about the achievability of it. When we look at making sure that it's measurable, you want to make sure, again, that there's very specific measures that you look at that you can focus in on. So what are the areas? So the numbers, if you're looking at 100% of something being completed, so that would be, you would know then when you get to 100% that you've achieved it. Being relevant, to the organization, reasonable, relevant, and then time sensitive. So how long is it going to take you to get there? So is this an objective that I can complete in a couple weeks? Is an objective that might take me months, or maybe even that might be a longer term objective? So when we look at the relationship between those two, the goal feeds into the objectives, and you may have several objectives that you need to use to actually satisfy, if you will, that goal. Now, looking at strategic priorities, you have all these objectives you've developed. You have to prioritize them. So you have to look at what are the things that are really most important right now that we want to focus in on. So we would look at those priorities and sort of define them in that perspective. And then, of course, just thinking about tactics. What are we going to do? So I think the strategic priorities and then the tactics are just how you're going to do that. So the first steps an organization should take when they're embarking in strategic planning is to ask themselves 4 questions. The first one is who and what they are as an organization. The second one is to ask themselves what are some of the resources that they'll have, or what do they have available to them. The third one is to look at where they want to go. So where do they want to see themselves in the future? And the last one is to focus in on how they're going to get there. So what are the steps that they might take to get there? There's several frameworks that you can use to do strategic planning, but I think all of them sort of come down to 5 things. One of them is, what is it that you want to achieve? So the beginning stages of the strategic planning process. The second one is to define the mission and the vision of the organization. The next one is to look at those strategic priorities and how we would kind of move forward in implementing them. Then, of course, implementation is great, but it doesn't mean anything without evaluation. So you want to be able to evaluate and see if it's sustainable. So I think those are the key areas that you want to focus in on.